Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this forum for the candidates for the Roseville City Council. Thank you for taking time to view this forum, whether tonight in person or on cable TV or the internet between tonight and November 5th. My name is Florence Sprague. I will be the moderator tonight. I'm a league-trained moderator, and while I am a member of the League of Women Voters Roseville area, sponsor of this forum, I'm a resident of Maplewood. Love them or hate them, I don't get to vote on tonight's candidates. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan grassroots organization empowering voters and defending democracy through voter education and engagement, advocating for democracy and encouraging civic participation. We do not ever endorse candidates or parties. We do study issues and take positions upon which we may take action. We ask that no campaign buttons or campaign attire be worn in this room, and that no signs or literature be distributed in the room. Campaign literature is available on a table outside this room. Please remain as quiet as possible while the candidates are speaking so that everyone can hear, and please hold your applause to the end of the forum, giving the candidates the most time to speak. All opinions presented tonight are those of the candidates and not those of the League of Women Voters. The candidates participating in tonight's forum have all agreed to the forum rules, which were included in their invitation to participate. And I know that they will give us a respectful and informative evening. The rules are posted just outside the room if the audience would like to look at them. This forum is being broadcast live and recorded by 9 North. I believe it's cable channels HD 859 and SD 15. For later viewing by the public. A link will also be available soon after tonight on the website of the League of Women Voters Roseville area. It is the League's policy to record and post the entire candidate forum without editing, so that the public will see the event in its entirety and not just selected scenes or sound bites. Excerpts and edited clips of candidate forums may not be used for partisan or political purposes. Okay, we've already turned off our phones, so we'll get right to the opening statements. I was going to say they'll be done in alphabetical order, but basically we're going to do one guy, then the other guy, and then for closing it'll be the other guy, but back the other way. Okay, after that we'll go to the question and answer period. Questions could have been emailed into the organizers, and the in-person audience may submit questions by writing them on the cards distributed and then giving them to one of the League ushers. All questions become the property of the League. Unless otherwise noted, candidates will have up to 2 minutes to respond to each question. The timers are seated here to my right, and they will hold up a yellow 30-second warning sign and then a red stop sign when the allotted time is up. Candidates should then finish their sentence and stop, so that everyone gets a comparable amount of time to speak, and we can end at the appointed time of 8:30. There are 4 candidates vying for 2 positions on the Roseville Council. Alphabetically, the candidates are Matt Bauer, Josh Kiley, Kevin Nicholson, and Julie Strahan. All candidates who filed for the office were invited to this forum, but sometimes circumstances prevent them all from participating. 2 of them are with us tonight, and Julie Strahan has submitted opening and closing statements, which I will read at the appropriate segment. With that, let's begin the opening statements. Timers, you ready? Okay, candidates, to up to 2 minutes for your opening statements, beginning with Matt Bauer.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Matt Bauer, running for the Roseville City Council. I'd like to thank the League of Women's Voters for sponsoring this candidate forum and for all the work that you do. Thanks also to my fellow candidate, people attending, those watching online, for being part of this discussion as we consider our choices in this election. I'm asking for your vote this November based on my qualifications, experience, and passion for Roseville. I, my wife, and our 3 kids love Roseville for its parks, location, businesses, both small and large, and the strong sense of community it has. It's been a wonderful place for making memories with my kids. My background is in building and starting tech companies, from just a few people to thousands spread across the globe. It's a set of skills ranging from budgeting and hiring to communications and strategic planning. It's a set of skills I plan to bring to serve the residents of Roseville. I'm currently a member of the McCarran's Lakefront Alliance, a community group which works to better the water quality and environment of Lake McCarran's right here in Roseville. I'm a former volunteer EMT serving on various fire departments and a current member of the Roseville Planning Commission. And I've worked very hard to know how a city runs and can hit the ground running if elected this November. I look forward to this opportunity to share more about my plans and my thoughts as we continue this community dialogue tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. The next opening statement from Josh Kiley.
Hello, I'm Josh Kiley. I'm excited to be running for a seat on our city council. When my wife Molly and I were searching for our first home, there was only one place where we considered, and that was Roseville. Moving here was the best decision we could have made as a new family. We have felt incredibly welcomed and safe, and I've had the pleasure of meeting many wonderful residents who also call Roseville home. I value the importance of local government, and since moving here have witnessed active participation of our neighbors in city council meetings, held conversations with impassioned residents about local issues, and I appreciate the very robust display of local candidate yard signs, even for those that belong to my opponent. We are a community that cares and are willing to engage. Professionally, I've devoted nearly a decade to public service, currently serving as the Deputy Director of Elections for Dakota County. My career has taught me the immense value of nonpartisan collaboration. I actually began my career working in Ramsey County elections, and if you've worked as an election judge over the years, you may recognize me from one of the election judge training sessions. I value that my work requires people from various political backgrounds to come together to serve our residents. I intend to bring that same spirit of collaboration to our city council. I'm deeply grateful for the foundation laid by those who came before me in Roseville. My goal is to build on that legacy and strengthen our community for future generations. My wife Molly and I know we made the right decision in calling Roseville our home. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I will read the opening statement for Julie Strahan. My name is Julie Strahan, and I am seeking re-election to the Roseville City Council. I am sorry to miss this opportunity to share what is important to me and why I am seeking another term as your representative. But an exceptionally important family event has me away from town. I do hope you understand. Since 2021, I have worked with the council and city staff to address issues from parks to recycling carts, from budgets to compensation studies, from unhoused people to fortifying the fire department. For each new item, I have spent a great deal of time reading, asking questions, and understanding the impact of decisions requested of the council. I have learned what is and what isn't within the scope of the duties of council, and how the council works closely with city staff and commissioners, the school board, the county, the Met Council, and the state legislators. The many county and state roads that are thoroughfares in Roseville are just one example of this needed collaboration and communication. I believe in providing a welcoming, inclusive, transparent approach to governing that keeps the concerns of people at the forefront. Please reach out to me at Strahan4, that's the digit 4, Roseville, @gmail.com if there are issues that you have questions about or would like to connect further. That was Julie Strahan's opening statement read by the moderator. Okay. Okay, we did not receive a statement from Kevin Nicholson, who is not here tonight. So we will now move to the question and answer portion of the evening. Okay, there are always more topics than time, and I will try to cover as many topics as possible. But if we do not touch upon an area of interest to you, I encourage you to reach out to the individual candidates or look at their websites. I also encourage candidates to have paper and pencil ready, because sometimes if I merge try to merge, questions, more than one question about a similar topic, though I've got an assistant back here who may take care of that for me. It can get off. I was going to say if I leave somebody out, but I don't think I will tonight. Okay. So, all questions must be addressed to all candidates, and responses must be topical about the speaker's views, not about another candidate. Okay. Question number 1. We'll begin with Matt Bauer. What are the 2 most important things you would like to see Roseville work toward if you are elected?
That's a good question. 2 things. The first one I would like to see worked on would be on public safety. I think there's great opportunities and great challenges that we have in public safety. There's, while door knocking, I've witnessed or I've heard from many residents that this is their shared concern as well. It's a problem that's going to take work from the whole community to make it happen. Recently, I support the police chief in her interest, and it's going to be for city council now for a staff allocation study, which will take a look to see if we can how we can best use officers, both in schools, at retail, on the streets, as well as using non-civilians to work more on the outreach, such as with our CAT teams. And so working on those areas would be something that's very important to me. My second big challenge, or things I would like to see work on, is to increase our engagement with residents. This is something that's always been ongoing with the city, something that the city has worked very hard with and to do, but getting more feedback from residents on matters that are going on in the city, be it everything from zoning issues with the comprehensive plan and whatnot, to recent changes with what we're thinking about with recycling, to changes with the cannabis zoning that's going to be coming up as well. Those are 2 areas I would like to see us really focus on and to grow and to work on. There's many other things that we also need to work on in city council and as a city to keep Roseville thriving. But if I need to pick 2 of the top ones, those would be probably 2 of them. Thank you. Thank you.
Same question to Josh Kiley. The 2 most important things you'd like Roseville to work on.
Thank you for the question. As I have had conversations with residents, I have heard that increased walkability, increased bikeability is a priority of our residents. I think we all know that coming into Roseville from outside of Roseville is very efficient. We have a lot of thoroughfares, a lot of highways. But people that live within Roseville have told me that they love our amenities, like our parks, and to strive towards a more interconnected city where we can bike and walk to those amenities is something that they want to see. And as a council member, something I would certainly prioritize. Second, I want to talk about sort of cross-government collaboration. Because I see opportunities to work in partnership with other local governments. And that could be in terms of grant procurement, which the city has done a very nice job of, and something that is certainly important for local jurisdictions to continue towards. So procuring dollars from the state and federal governments. But, it's also continuing our very strong relationship with our schools. Because their success is our success as a city. Remember that we have 2 school districts within Roseville. I live in the Mounds View district, and it's really important that from the city perspective, we're developing strong relationships with both districts. Another example, the Little Canada City Council has expressed interest in making improvements around the Rice Street corridor. And, of course, we border Little Canada along Rice Street, and there's certainly an opportunity there to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next question. As you know, and this one we'll start with Josh. There are 2 city questions on the Roseville ballot this fall. The maintenance facility and the licensing center. Where do you stand on these and the half-cent sales tax proposed to fund them?
Thank you for that question. I will be voting yes on both questions. Generally speaking, I support government infrastructure projects. I think it is the government's role and responsibility to build and maintain infrastructure like the roads between schools, businesses, and houses, provide public safety like police officers' vehicles for those police officers, and of course buildings to store those vehicles. By investing in public infrastructure, we are all paying for a public good. I would say this is an unglamorous public good, especially the maintenance question, because garage space or storage space isn't as exciting as, say, building a library or building a park. However, the city does not have enough space to house the maintenance vehicles that we need to keep our streets plowed in the winter and our parks and trails groomed and maintained. I would argue that the current council has been thoughtful in the funding mechanism to pay for this project through sales tax, primarily because Roseville brings in a lot of sales tax. We outperform other cities in that category. I am concerned about the precedent that it sets by using parkland for this project. I would have liked to see our city council explore other siting options, and certainly would prioritize that as a city and council member. And I have talked to a number of residents that have also felt unheard, particularly in their concerns about us eclipsing parkland. So I would certainly want to put community engagement at the forefront of any future projects like this.
Thank you. Same question to Matt Bauer, the two questions that are going to be on the ballot.
Yeah, thank you. I would add that the current maintenance facility, people aren't aware, was built in 1953 or thereabouts. It's definitely showing its age. There's the fuel depot that's there that needs a lot of work. There's definitely a need, as Josh alluded to do something with this. There's going to be costs with this facility, whether it's a new facility that's built or this facility prepared. Regarding the License Center, it's important to also note that the License Center is a revenue generating thing for Roseville. We also expect that the revenue would be increasing from the License Center, especially since neighboring licensing centers are starting to close. So spending some time and effort to make sure that we have a quality location for the License Center is important. The building that it's currently in, while maybe look okay from the outside, has significant problems, especially with its roof HVAC systems. It does not make sense to put more money into that facility. I agree that this precedent of removing the parkland is something that's new to Roseville, and we should not take it lightly. The master plan for the parks was something that the city has spent a long time and a lot of effort and a lot of money on, and we need to do something to address that as well. Also, that park is used by residents over there, so doing something such as increasing paths or walkways from that neighborhood to Howard Johnson Park, for example, is something that will have to be dealt with during that time. I agree that I enjoy or like the fact that the city council has looked at using a sales tax to fund this and not just the levy, and putting that choice to residents. I think thinking of creative ways to make that happen is important. And I would encourage residents that are interested to please visit the city's website, investroseville.org, to learn more about this so they become informed when they make this decision on the ballot.
Thank you. The next question, I think let's do it as a 1-minute question. Okay. This is kind of a follow-up to that. Okay. If you're supporting building these new structures, do you support or making them as environmentally friendly as possible, going for renewable energy, using renewable energy, LED lighting, good insulation, et cetera, regardless of, and they may be thinking of, does this cost more? Well, anyhow, but will you be environmentally friendly, climate conscious?
Yes, and I can assure you that it'll be more environmentally friendly and energy sound than our current 1953 building. Yes, and actually Roseville has a very good history of doing this. If you remember, the ice arena is actually using this geothermal, right? And that was a very new thing when that came out, and we ended up using it. We have solar on all of our public buildings. There'll be solar on this building as well. We actually purchased solar power from 2 different solar farms in Roseville as well for that. The building will also be it's not hard to say if it's going to be LEED certified, but that is some of the conversations that we're having, or the city is having, to make sure it meets the highest levels of environmental soundness.
Thank you. And the same follow-up to Josh Kiley.
Thank you. The first question that you asked us, what was our top 2 priorities? My third priority would be climate. So absolutely. And one of my promises or assurances to you is, as a council member, I'm going to take that climate lens very seriously. And we absolutely need to do it with this building as well. Residents have spoken to me about their concerns about our changing climate. It's one of the reasons why eclipsing a green space is of concern to them. So yeah, to echo a lot of what Matt said, I'm certainly interested in investing in that building in terms of renewables, solar in particular. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Josh Kiley. What do you think about the perennial Roseville issue of having organized trash hauling? And the questioner posed in the notes, are you aware of many benefits to our air, less noise pollution, roads, and so on?
Indeed. Well, thank you for that question. I am aware of the perennial issue. In fact, when I put my name in to run, it was the very first topic that came up. It was my very first phone call. Josh, what do you think about organized trash? So perfect. Let me tell you what I think. So we need to continue this discussion. It needs to become serious. And as it has been presented to me, there are some very clear benefits. With an organized trash collection system, the number of trucks that drive down your street each week would be greatly reduced. Of course, the function of waste haulers is obviously important. I think we can all agree that fewer trucks down the residential roads would be a good thing. Less noise pollution, safer for kids, less wear and tear on our roads, and of course, less greenhouse gas emissions. Now, while the residents that I've chatted with may not necessarily have brand loyalty to their waste hauler, they care about 2 things. They care about price and they care about reliability of the service. And as we start to have this conversation in earnest, it is important to keep in mind that many other jurisdictions around us have done this already. And so we can learn from their past mistakes and their past successes. And we can craft a policy that works well for Roseville residents. And I'll just give you an example. I have a neighbor on my street that doesn't pay for garbage collection because they produce very little garbage. And we would certainly want to craft a policy that allows residents to opt out or only pay for the size of bin that they need, or allow multiple houses to sort of double up on trash cans. I'm certainly eager to start those discussions and see if we can develop a policy for Roseville residents that is cost effective, reliable, and reduces the number of trucks on our streets.
Thank you. Same question to Matt Bauer. Thank you. This is a perennial issue, and the city is aware of this. Every year or every 2 years, or twice a year, the city does a phone survey where it goes and surveys residents, calls them, estimates a number of questions from public safety, whatnot. This question is always on it. We do see that the numbers are ticking up still a little bit from the previous survey that we did. Excuse me. In favor of a single hauler solution. However, the majority of residents in Roseville do not. As Josh pointed out, there's other neighboring cities that have done this. And it's important to learn from that and also to learn from the law. If it's so chosen that this is what the residents so want, it's important to know that it's the responsibility of the city to try to organize or the trash haulers are then supposed to organize together to try to figure out a route and a schedule and make all this work. And then if that doesn't work, then it goes back to the city. Anyhow, our neighborhoods or our communities that neighbor us that have tried this have been still stuck in this and trying to work through this. And it's taking a lot of time and money and tax money to try to organize this and try to make this happen. So if this is something that the residents do decide to do, they should be well aware of all the additional costs and needs that are going to be put on us. And it's not just a quick fix or a quick solution. neighboring communities that have chosen this, I'm not so sure if they are like the decision that they made. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next question. We'll begin with Matt Bauer. Affordable housing is a challenge everywhere. Is Roseville doing enough? What future projects for affordable housing would you like to see?
Thank you. It's something that I'm quite familiar with, being on the Planning Commission. But when we talk about affordable housing, we often have this conversation. We think about just the first-time homeowners, or we think about how we can make that housing affordable. What we really need to think about is the spectrum. It's not just the first-time homeowner. It's something called filtering, right? So a first-time homeowner comes, they get married, they have a family, they expand, become empty nesters. It's this whole process, and it's making sure that there's affordable housing and options for the whole thing, especially from people empty nesters or those going into senior care, and making sure that we have those. In order for something like that to happen, it's really important that we have a wide set of options and housing options. Roseville has done very well in this. In fact, Roseville is ahead of what Met Council asked for as far as percentages of single family, multifamily, high density, all the different types of housing. It's something we've actively been working on. In fact, in probably the last 4 years, and most Roseville residents will notice, they've seen a lot of high density housing going up and increasing. Now, this is great for that, but there's also a whole set of making housing affordable for houses and whatnot. Roseville has a number of different programs to help with like first-time purchases. There's land trust, there's first-time homeowner down payment assistance as well, and to make those kinds of things happen. But all that stuff was based on a study that we did in 2018, which was the housing needs assessment. Just recently, the City Council approved an RFP for a new housing needs assessment, which is really important because since 2018, work from home has happened, a bunch of other things, the needs and desires have changed. And so with that study, the city will be going forward. And so when we go and do this, it'll be very important that we look at the whole spectrum of affordable housing options for people and making sure that our existing neighborhoods still stay strong and stay highly desirable, and we don't change that character. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question. Affordable housing to Josh Kiley.
Florence, can you repeat the question, please?
We'll see what to do with. Here we go. Affordable housing is a challenge everywhere. Is Roseville doing enough? What future projects for affordable housing would you like to see?
I agree. Affordable housing is a challenge. And I think it's important that we talk about it in terms of workforce housing. I said in one of my previous statements that Roseville has a great sales tax revenue because of our very robust retail corridor. I want to live in a city where somebody is working one of those retail jobs, $20 an hour. They can also live in the city where they work. So when we're talking about affordable housing, I like to think of it in terms, it's important for us to remember we're talking about very working people here that are making $20 an hour. Yes, there is a place for those types of housing projects, those types of units in Roseville. And I think it is important that we put those types of projects and put community engagement at the forefront of that. I live near the Twin Lakes project. I have spoken with a number of neighbors that are comfortable and confident in the end product, but felt that their views and opinions were not heard by the council as that project went forward. And so I would certainly want to prioritize that. I also want to take this opportunity just to give a quick mention to accessory dwelling units. And really that comes down to a zoning issue. And we have a trend towards multi-generational living. Accessory dwelling units does alleviate pressures on the housing market. It does provide an alternative to larger apartment and condo units. And it does allow people to age in place, which could ultimately lower the cost.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question will begin with Josh. What does the phrase strong neighborhood mean to you?
Strong neighborhood evokes a few thoughts. It evokes people outside walking and biking and knowing who their neighbors are. It evokes a level of comfort and confidence to feel safe when you're outside. It also evokes in my mind a picture of trees and greenery and nature, and that's the type of community that I would want to live in. Thank you.
Okay, and that question to Matt Bauer.
I can share what I think a strong neighborhood is, but it's also about what the people in that neighborhood believe is a strong neighborhood. Having walked and knocked on a bunch of doors in Roseville, it's been wonderful to see the wide variety of neighborhoods and the wide variety of people that are in those neighborhoods. There's also strong neighborhoods within apartment buildings I've seen. It's been great. And so it's really what is a strong neighborhood for the people that actually live there and want to grow there, and making sure that they have the flexibility and the options to have that neighborhood be what it wants to be. And really, at the end of the day, whatever it is that they decide, it's that real strong sense of community where they know each other, they know their neighbors, they feel safe, they feel comfortable that their neighbors are there to help them. But it really is an individualistic thing within those particular neighborhoods. And it's not one for me to decide, like, my vision of what a particular neighborhood is or whatnot. It's making sure that the city and the choices that the city makes allows them to have the strong neighborhood that they desire. Thank you.
Okay. Next question will begin with Matt Bauer. Do you see Rosedale as an asset or a liability to the city? Discuss.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
So there's a bunch of different aspects here, right? And I don't think the answer, like most decisions that should be for a city council, it's never cut or dry or just a particular yes or no answer, right? So we can list out a number of qualities that the Rosedale has. For example, it's a huge tax base for us, right? It's a big, giant tax offset for the community. It also is a big part of making part of what Roseville is desirable. If you look, there are improvements in the work that's being done there is generating a lot of other spin-off investment in retail, and that definitely helps with us. It does also cause us challenges because, as you know, that brings in a lot of traffic from outside Roseville, which is a positive thing, right? It'll help if we so choose to use the tax base or the sales tax to fund our public works building. But that also increases a lot of our public safety calls, fire, EMS, traffic accidents. And then there's also the crime component, which definitely taxes some of our police resources. I know that they're recently going to have 2 officers there, and then we have to fill those positions as well. So there's a positive there. I think it goes both ways, and I think the answer is yes and no. But overall, I think Rosedale is an asset for the city. And I think the loss of it would be a big loss in Roseville. And I think it is part of what Roseville's identity is. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Kiley, Rosedale, asset or liability?
Yes. I'm going to go ahead and agree with Matt on a lot of what he said. It is not cut and dry. It does bring in folks into our community. And I know personally an owner of a business near the Rosedale area, and she set up her business specifically in that location because Rosedale brings in a lot of folks from outside the city. So it is good in terms of revenue generation, job creation, certainly. I also want to point out that with each business that we have within the city limits of Roseville, that does help offset our property taxes for us as residents. So that's a good thing. I think COVID really showed us the vulnerabilities of large retail spaces. And as we look towards the future, especially in terms of economic development, I would be interested in a diversification of our commercial real estate. Certainly because, the businesses that are in Rosedale now are here, and that's great. But if they choose to leave, that does that's certainly a vulnerability that the city has.
Thank you. Next question will begin with Josh. What steps would you encourage the city to take to improve the water quality in all 6 city lakes? All are now rated as at risk.
Thank you for that question. Well, as I said, I want to call back to my third priority, which is climate, pollution, and looking at these problems from a climate and environmental protection conservation lens. So yeah, I would certainly agree that we want to make sure that our water quality is safe. To be perfectly honest, I mean, Mr. Bauer here lives on a lake and will have, I think, a lot to say about the topic. As far as, keeping our shorelines intact, that's really important. I know soil quality and planting trees is really important. Mitigation, generally speaking, mitigation of greenhouse gases is certainly important. I also want to talk a little bit about sewer infrastructure and the resilience that we need as a city. Just for example, the MPCA just today had a grant proposal for $10 million that would help fund improvements for sewer and water infrastructure within local jurisdictions. And that's certainly something we want to consider from a city council perspective.
Thank you. Matt Bauer, same question, our lakes.
Thank you. With any body of water, this is a multi-agency kind of problem, right? So we have everything from cities, counties, state, DNR, watersheds. Roseville has 2 different watersheds. So what's right depends on which way the water flows and which watershed you go. So fixing this problem is not a simple one-off solution to solve them. It's about working with all different partners and different groups to make that happen. For example, Roseville has worked with the watershed to do the big project at Parkview, right, to clean up the water at Lake McCarran's and filtering that coming in. It's also taking a look to see what is actually causing that pollution, what's making that happen, and figuring out the right solution for those. Because the flow of water and where it originates, the path it takes, is definitely different for all of our lakes, and those need to each be addressed. But to really solve the problem, that's not something that the city of Roseville would do just by itself. It's something that the city of Roseville needs to work with and continues to work with all of its partners, be it like the watershed, DNR, the state, the county, to work on those kinds of things. I will say that Roseville has done a good job of improving and fixing a lot of the stormwater issues that we've done. And so that runoff, which is a big key component of the quality of the lakes, continues to get better. There's still room and opportunity to make it better, but as we work with our partners, such as the county, and improve roads, make them better, we have the opportunity to change some of that stormwater flow and filter it and make it better for the lakes. But it's a long process and something that the city will have to continue working on, and something I'm in favor of.
Thank you. And that's both of you, right? Okay. Staying in the same theme, what are the 3 most important environmental issues that should be addressed by the city of Roseville? And that will begin with Matt.
So 3 most important environmental. I think one is to start working on, so every year, as part of the comprehensive plan, the current one is the 2040 comprehensive plan. A part of that has climate goals, and right now, to achieve those goals, the city has now a dedicated sustainability person. So one of the challenges or one of the goals for working on the environment is to really empower that person to start working on. The person is currently working on the Green to Go program, which is making takeaway food containers recyclable. It's something that the state's doing, something that we're looking to go forward with sooner. Now, there's also a $70,000 grant that's coming here soon that will allow us to start working on, or having that person start working on our climate action plan. And then from that work product, then we could start be able to take things and make them actionable. So that's one thing. It's really opportunity for us is to really use that person. The second one, we have great opportunity with our fleet of vehicles. We have a significant number of vehicles, actually, from fire trucks to police cars to cars for code enforcement, to look at making those and electrifying them. We've already got our electric fire truck on order, and this is good for environmental reasons, but it's also a cost reason. That fire truck's warranty is longer than what we normally get as a service life, and we also expect the service life of that vehicle to be double. This would be true for a lot of electric vehicles, so it makes sense in those cases. And third was continuing to work with our partners, such as XL Energy, and to improve those things. We do a lot of stuff right now in the city and community development of reaching out to businesses and to work with them. Sometimes they know about these programs, sometimes they don't, but really being one of those people able to communicate out these programs and so they can take advantage of it. So it's not just the city that's becoming environmentally conscious, but all of Roseville. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Kiley, 3 most important environmental issues.
Yes, this policy area is important to me personally, but more importantly, so many residents I've spoken with are concerned about climate and the environment and want to know how we can affect change. And I see our role in 2 parts. It's about the mitigation of greenhouse gases, but it's also enhancing our infrastructure to protect against severe weather events, and so we'll call that resilience. So in terms of mitigation, as Matt mentioned, there are a ton of things that we can do and control at the city level. I had mentioned earlier the biking and walkway networks. That is something I've heard from a number of residents, that we want to make our city more bike friendly and walk friendly. And of course that has an effect on our climate. And that's a good thing. I fully support our tree planting program here in Roseville. Houses with tree coverage use way less energy for heating and cooling. It saves residents money. It provides shade, beautifies the neighborhood, raises property values, things like that. Solar is also a key element to this, especially as we're talking about new buildings. For example, we have some TIF districts, tax increment financing districts in Roseville. If we made that a requirement for any future projects, that seems like a reasonable step for us. But the last thing is really about resilience, and there are actions that we can take to be more resilient, because we have to remember this is a global issue, and we only control, the mitigation within Roseville. We don't control what's happening outside of Roseville, but we can prepare ourselves for more severe and extreme weather events. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next one will begin with Josh Kiley. Okay, thinking about infrastructure. You can hardly drive anywhere these days without having to replan your route to get around road construction. But that doesn't mean that everything's been addressed. What do you see as the future infrastructure needs for Roseville?
Certainly. And I have talked about this again. I'm repeating myself a little bit, but a number of people have talked to me about bike lanes. A number of families have expressed interest. They'll say, I would love to be able to walk my kid to the library, but I live on the other side of Hamlin, or I live on the other side of B, whatever the situation is. And so as we change our zoning code, I certainly want to keep that at the forefront. As I talked about in my opening priority, there are county and state thoroughfares in our city. And so there has to be a strong relationship, collaboration, and partnership with the county and with the state to avoid the being consistently rerouted. We can control in our city when we do construction on our roads. but we can't control what the county and what the state does. But we can certainly work in partnership with them to do that. Thanks.
Thank you. Same question to Matt Bauer.
Thank you. So, yes, many of the bigger roads in Roseville are either state or county owned or taken care of. And as far as currently, yeah, there's some bad timing. Some RFPs went out late, and as a result, things are kind of getting backed up and difficult to get here. I know for me, it was difficult to get here today. So it's very important that as we go forward, we have a strategic plan going forward for making this happen. Right now, the Minnesota DOT is doing their Highway 36 study. That's involving multiple things, not just the traffic and the cars, but it's also looking at pedestrian traffic, bus traffic. It's also looking at making it more accessible for bikes and pedestrians to go north and cross 36 right now. So that study is underway, and the results of that will be informative. 36 just had a mill and overlay, which is great. That'll be for 4 years. But the subsurface below that is going to need some work, and the Minnesota DOT knows that. And so there's going to be a much larger project going forward. And I suggest people take a look at that to see how that's going. The same is true for some of our county roads. For example, Snelling, that intersection, some of those intersections need work as well. I will say that from my experience, and my son's on the Public Works Environmental Transportation Committee, so I get this, I guess, secondhand. And here, that the county is very well aware of this, and the county is actually working really hard to improve things. If you notice on Dale, they're doing some other work on there that was supposed to be a walkway, or it's supposed to have a bike pathway, but sometimes even if it's in the master plans, the funds don't work out, and we as a city can only push the county so far. But continuing those relationships with the city or with the county and with the state to make sure that it provides what residents need is something I'm in favor of, and we'll have to continue working there to keep making it better every year, and have to put up with some of the traffic routing. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Next question, we will start with Matt. Okay, the questioner writer says that they perceive there were many more homeless people on corners and in parking lots. Do you have a plan to help?
Yes. So currently there's a couple of things to that. One, Roseville currently through a grant has the Community Action Team, CAT for short, and also and that's a team that has an officer, a mental health worker, housing coordinator as well. It's out of the police department. There's also funding then for that housing person to help those people in need, so we can figure out what it is that they need. Oftentimes, there's a lot of support out there for these people in this situation to get them out of this situation. Unfortunately, you need to know how to navigate that and how to make that happen and how to get those resources. You might have this great resource, but you need a driver's license first, but you can't get somewhere because you don't have a means to get to the license center. Something like along those lines. They have these programs, and we're working in Roseville, and Roseville currently has people to help with that. So we actually solve that problem and help people and get them on that right path to solving that. I'm in favor of continuing that and continuing write grants and try to get more of that kind of funding. That's one aspect. I forgot the second part that I was going to say. We also have, with the homeless side of things, also trying to work with, can you repeat the question? There was a second part to that.
No, it was just that the perception that there are many more homeless on corners and parking lots. Do you have a plan to help?
Oh, okay. Right, so continuing to funding those programs, and then also working to understand what the needs is. It also changes over time, so needs that we have might be, there might be an issue drug-related, there might be a different variety. So coming up with not just a point solution to solve these kinds of problems, but really understanding what the full scope of the problem is, and to actually be able to address their needs, to be able to help them to get on the path to not be homeless. Thank you.
Thank you. And same question to Josh Kiley.
I think it's important that we remember that homelessness is not a crime. It is not a crime for somebody to not own or rent property in the United States. And so, I think it's important that we take an empathetic approach. This is not unique to Roseville. We know that it is a national issue, particularly with fentanyl and the way that that has really affected vulnerable populations and has certainly amplified the homelessness issue across the country. In a practical sense, our police force in Roseville are generally the folks that are interacting with folks that are homeless. And as Matt alluded to, I'm fully in support of that community action team. And so if you're not aware, it's where we've embedded social workers and mental health professionals within the police force so that our officers have that additional resource as they're interacting with these folks that are homeless. And so, yeah, I'm in complete agreement with Matt. Being able to provide resources to these folks and connect them to other programs is really critical. And I would certainly support our police forces, the actions that we've taken as a police force so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, responses for the next question will begin with Josh Kiley. Okay, and I got food insecurity is an issue that faces many families, whether it's people with young children or senior citizens on a limited budget or anyone who's out of work and so on. It's not limited to one group. What's the role for the city in addressing this issue?
Well, generally my view of government is that we need to help and support vulnerable populations. And so if folks are experiencing food insecurity, I do believe that the city does play a role in that. There are a variety of things that we can do. There are very robust and strong programs that exist already within our city. And so it is a matter of connecting those folks that have food insecurity with those other resources. I am also a huge proponent of community gardening. I think that there's more that we can do with some of the green space that we have here within the city. And I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Matt Bauer.
Yes, I think the city's role in this case is to highlight the problem and to work to try to find groups to help solve it. I don't believe the city necessarily has to solve all problems, and in many cases, the city's not the right one to solve it. Sometimes there's faith-based groups, there's other groups. Roseville has been is blessed with so many different groups here in Roseville that work to help its community. I think the role of the city is to, when they, see some of these problems, to raise the flag and to call for help and to try to organize the community and try to organize Roseville to see if there's some way to solve this and to make this happen. There's sometimes, sometimes that's just using existing programs or working to kind of support those programs or improve those, or in some cases, it's maybe working with the community and with residents to create and develop new programs to make this happen. But the city has a very loud bullhorn, if you will, and sometimes it makes sense to use that when people need help and to have the residents come and other groups to help solve this problem.
Thank you. Okay, for the next question, we'll start with Matt Bauer. What responsibility does Roseville have for services for the increasing population living with dementia and other disabilities?
Well, I think we definitely have a responsibility to serve our residents. And just because you have a disability of dementia, it doesn't mean that you don't get the services that you need. As we pointed out, a lot of times when we have these problems, the first call is to 911 or something along those lines, or it's the police that gets intervened or fire department. Some cases, yes, you do need that. In other cases, that's not the right thing to actually have show up. In some cases, it might just be that you need a social worker, or you might need a mental health coordinator or something like that. And that makes a lot more sense to do than just to send officers. That's why I support doing the police staff allocation study to see, are there a lot of civilian roles that we can use, civilians we can use in some of these roles, and not just police officers to help these situations. It does two things. One, it gets the person that's actually having these issues and problems the help that they need to actually find a solution to it. and two, it doesn't tie up our officers on calls like this and frees them up to work on other things. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Kiley.
Yeah, can you repeat the question again, Florence?
Right. What responsibility does Roseville have for services for the increasing population living with dementia and other disabilities?
Yeah, we certainly have a responsibility and a role to play. Again, it is my view that local government's role is to help our most vulnerable population, and I certainly want to live in a city that prides itself in doing just that. I think folks with disabilities, folks that don't have disabilities, I mean, we all need a place to live. And I think this is can be thought of it as a zoning question. We need to have places for elderly folks or people with dementia or people with disability to live in our city and to receive care. And so as we're talking about different developments around town, I think that's certainly an important consideration for us to make. The other thing I just want to call back, somebody was just talking to me about the possibility of an accessory dwelling unit for their disabled son. And I think, again, from a zoning perspective, that's certainly something that the city can discuss and should discuss because it does allow folks an alternative option to care at home that wouldn't be dependent on a large apartment complex or something like that.
Thank you. Responses in the next question will begin with Josh Kiley. I know that Roseville has, I may get the title right, an equity person.
Equity inclusion.
Equity inclusion person, okay. And the letters DEI, turn up in lots of places. And some see this as a good thing, some see this as a bad thing. What does DEI mean to you?
Sure. Well, it's certainly a good thing, and I am saddened by the way that terminology has been co-opted to mean something negative. I consider myself an empathetic person. I want that reflected in city government. I want a city that is welcoming. I believe that racial, ethnic, gender, LGBTQ plus justice is critical to the health and well-being of our city. And I certainly support policies that identify, challenge, and dismantle discrimination and prejudicial systems. And I know that our commissions should and could be more representative of the demographics of our city. And I'll go ahead and reference a study done by the League in 2021 that showed just that. So there certainly is work to do to get our folks of all different demographics better represented in city government.
Thank you. Matt Bauer.
Yes. So that hire for the equity and inclusion manager did happen, and it's actually, I think it was part of the 2021 plan, that the racial equity action plan. It may not have been that, but that goes along with that, and the city is acting on that. And as part of that, and it's really a good plan. It's very data-based. It's tracking our progress and suggesting changes where necessary. So some of the hiring practices we've done have changed and have improved. And if you see in the city, I think the data shows that it's working, and we're actually getting fantastic candidates and fantastic staff and that are more representative of the residents of Roseville. So that's been a great thing. We're also doing some other stuff. For example, the Parks Department's looking for new software to make it easier to register for programs, but it also will track demographics too, to make sure the programs that we're offering are offered to everyone in Roseville, and that we're not just excluding a particular group because we're not offering a program that we don't want. This is something else that this plan has done. I can say as a member of the Planning Commission, it's definitely working as well. I know when I went through the commission to get hired, or to get nominated rather, it was a very big part of the commissions. And if you look at the commissions right now, say than a few years ago before this took place, they're definitely much more representative. For example, the Planning Commission is mostly women on there as well. And the Public Works, I think, is pretty much even there. We've also had some really good success with this program on the fire department specifically with our cadet program and our Explorer program. We now have a number of women firefighters and a number from underrepresented classes as well. And it's been great because it's been a flywheel, and now other candidates see that this is happening and they want to apply to our departments because they can see the success that they have. And so we're just getting more and more fantastic candidates to serve residents of Roseville.
Thank you. Next question will begin with Matt Bauer. Okay, we've lost all of our suburban newspapers. Does the city have a role for the in the seeking a better dissemination of news? And I know that's a yes or no question, but you can talk about, you've got your 2 minutes.
I think I may know the writer of this question. Yes, I'm a big fan of, in order for city government to work and for our community to work well, right, we need a clear and open and transparent set of news and make it very clear what's happening. So it would be great to have more of that information and being shared. And yes, the loss of a newspaper and covering just our events is definitely something that is sad. I think the city does have its city newsletter, and if you look, that's where most people in Roseville, the studies that the city does, get most of their information. That's actually coming from the city, right? So it's just much more about what's going on. It doesn't actually have more of the reporting that you will, of like someone digging in and trying to do that in the balance. It'd be nice to see that, more of that. The city of Roseville does have a communication staff, and that staff has been increasing because of the city newspaper working so well, or city newsletter working so well. And I think there's just definitely some big opportunities to not just do newspaper, but some other mediums and forms as well, such as video and other things, and making sure that the city is delivering news and information in the places that people are reading it. I think is a great opportunity. And I would encourage anyone to write about Roseville anytime they want. The means are very democratic right now. You can make a Substack and do it. And as a public official, you can ask to talk to us anytime you want. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now Josh Kiley on news dissemination.
Sure. As a resident of Roseville, yes, I would love it if there was a newspaper here that focused on what we were doing. I would love it. However, also as a resident, I would not want that newspaper to be in the pocket of the city council. In fact, we want a clear separation between folks that are writing about city government and the government officials themselves. That's what accountability is. That's what we need. So it's a very interesting question because, of course, as a resident, I'm in support of that. But as a council member, there needs to be a division. As Matt mentioned, I want to underscore the newsletter that Roseville have is fantastic. I was renting an apartment in St. Paul. They had nothing like that. The information that's coming out from the city is truly professional and superb and really fantastic. And it really does fit a lane. But we want to make sure that lane is different from a privately owned paper. There are some ways that the city can support a privately owned paper, particularly in the legally required public announcements that cities are required to post. As I understand it now, we are posting through the Pioneer Press, so we'll pay them however many thousands of dollars annually that is. So that may be one way we can support them. So again, as a resident, yes, but as a council member, got to be a clear delineation.
Okay, thank you. Next question will begin with Josh Kiley. One good way to reduce the number of car trips that we have to make is the use of public transit. Is Roseville adequately served? Are there changes you'd like to see in the public transportation that the Met Council brings you?
Are we adequately served? No. I have not met anybody that has said that we are adequately served. The complicating issue of this question is that we do not control the Met Council. We don't control the bus lines in the city. The Met Council has a very broad scope. They're considering lines all across the metro. We have influence in the same way that St. Anthony and Falcon Heights and Little Canada have influence. So, in order to make our city more connected and easily to commute within, we have to invest in bikeability and walkability. That's what we control. We don't control the bus lines that Met Council does. When I think about transportation within our city, yes, it is critical, but I do think we need to take a practical approach to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Matt Bauer.
Yes, I think increasing our walkways and connecting them is important, but it is hard to carry, as someone with three kids, that many groceries on a bike. We don't control the buses, and in one case we did, but working with our partners, Met Council, the Minnesota DOT, looking at different options to allow for, say, bus rapid transit or buses is something that's important. It's an ongoing discussion. It's something that takes time, and there have been improvements. For example, there's a time in the past where the Met Council was thinking about stopping buses short of not going all the way up through Rice and further down to where that park and ride is. There was work done by the city to kind of push for that and advocate for that, and then now the buses there is a park and ride, and it goes all the way up north. We do need more buses that go east-west. East-west is definitely a problem that we have within Roseville, and that definitely is something that needs to happen. In the past, I think the city is very aware that we need something, especially as our demographic continues aging, and making sure that there's mobility options for seniors. That's really important. There's been, in the past, the city has tried things like new tracks, and the ridership was not where it needed to be. But I think all options are on the table, both with Met Council or other options to try to make that happen. And I believe the City Council, in the past I've seen, has been receptive to those ideas. And I'd be in favor of listening to any of those.
Thank you. Next question. Let's see. We'll begin with Matt. That should be easy for me. Okay. Roseville has a large senior population. What responsibility does the city have for the needs of this population beyond the Roseville Area Senior Program?
Well, I was going to mention RASP. RASP is people aren't aware, it's the Roseville Area Senior Program. It's done through the schools. It's a great program. So I think there's a number of different things. I think, one, really taking a look to see how we can help seniors age in place in their homes as much as we can. That's where they lived and grew it, and so wherever we can do. I think there's a city component to that. I think there's a neighborhood component to that. I think there's a community group component to that. And I think getting something like that organized is important. Senior group as well. We also need to take a look at our fire and EMS response times and ability to support that. Unfortunately, a law from the 1970s makes it so that we cannot have our own ambulance provider, so we have to use Alina. In some cases, those calls to get an ambulance take 15 to 45 minutes because they might be coming from somewhere really far. So we've staffed up on the fire department, more paramedics, and we have medical trucks that can do everything except transport the patient. So making sure that we have enough resources there, and I'm in favor of making sure that they're adequately staffed to deal with the increasing call volume, which we're definitely seeing because of the great senior housing options that we have here in Roseville. And if you're not aware, we also have the fire department will also, I believe, do identify risks in homes too, not just fire risks, but other risks as well. I also think it's important for us to help with seniors too, for the protection of scams and abuse and things like that. Again, that's going back where maybe there's some programs in the police department that we can use civilians for, not just police officers, but to help to make sure that seniors feel safe, not just in their homes, but also online and the communities that they have, and make sure that they're well taken care of. again, I'll just point out the Roseville area, the RAS program as well is a great thing. But I think there's a comprehensive effort that needs to be made to help seniors age here in Roseville. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question to Josh Kiley.
Yeah, there are a lot of roles that the city can take. So as I've talked about a few times about the accessory dwelling units, and that is certainly one way that we can help. There is a serious national crisis and shortage of staff to work in nursing homes and assisted living facilities. And to the degree that we can help influence and alleviate that crisis here in Roseville, I think we should do that. As Matt said, strategies to allow folks to age in place. It's cost effective, and the folks in my family certainly want to do it. And that's really something people want to do. There are some things that we can do in terms of zoning. We can create more places for assisted living and nursing facilities in Roseville, again, to help alleviate that. I also want to talk about some volunteer opportunities. A number of seniors have expressed to me that they would love to volunteer and get back into the community. And so in terms of the role that the city takes, it's certainly connecting our seniors with those types of opportunities. And then the last thing I'll mention, somebody just said it to me the other day, we got to make sure that we love our parks here in Roseville. We got to make sure that they're not just ball fields, that they're not just for kids to play, soccer and baseball and tennis. All of that is good, but we also need to put in infrastructure for, walking, being outside, being close to our lakes, things like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next one will begin with Josh Kiley. How specifically does your background prepare you for work on the city council?
Have a note, 1 second. So I have 10 years of experience in local government, and in my capacity of my job, I have gained experience in collaboration between different local governments. So again, I am the Deputy Director of Elections for Dakota County, and we have an immense amount of interaction between the cities within Dakota County as well as the state of Minnesota. Specifically, I would describe myself as a very curious person by nature, and I love understanding all sides of the issues. If I am curious, I will pepper you with questions until I have what I need. The other thing I want to highlight is that I am new. I am new to Roseville, especially compared to some of the folks I've door knocked at. I am new to the mechanics of Roseville's city council, but I think adding that fresh perspective, adding that type of demographic to our city council will make it stronger. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Matt Bauer.
Thank you. As I mentioned, my background is starting tech companies and growing them to massive scales, from starting in like cardboard tables to taking them public. You can only imagine the things that takes, and the number of people. I've had to do everything from strategic planning to hiring to budgets that are larger than Roseville's budget, in managing a huge number of stakeholders, more than 36,000 customers. I'm very familiar and very comfortable in these environments. I know how to relate to the problems that are there, make sure that the problems are understood, make sure that the team is organized, to establish a team if it's not there to make it happen, and effectively listen to what the problem is and make sure to ask the questions that are necessary. I'm comfortable with reading everything from budgets to annual operating plans to hiring practices, lots of experience knowing and being able to question those things. As the city council is very much like a board of directors of a company. where the city staff does most of the work, if not almost all the work of the city. The city councilor's role is really to guide, set direction, and to double check a lot of that work. That's the experience that I have doing in my day job. If elected, residents can feel comfortable that I'm making sure that all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, that their ideas and what they're looking for are followed through and executed. These are long-term things that we're talking about with the city, and you need someone that has that experience to see it all the way through. And that's what I do during my day job. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to end up with a nice, well, I don't know, I hope it's a softball question. And it'll start with Matt Bauer. What are you reading these days? Hopefully something not for work.
I am reading...
It's okay, we have time. We'll just...
Yes. So at my kids' school, now I'm blanking on the title, but basically a book about how achievement isn't everything. So right now in schools, this is very much focused, I think it's probably my generation, we did this to our kids, but very much focus of always excelling. You need to be in this sport, you need to be at this school, you need to have these good grades, you need to volunteer, you need to do all these things. And turns out that may not be the best thing for kids. They may just want to go to one of our fantastic playgrounds in Roseville and just play. So this book is going through that and analyzing it and taking a very data-centric approach to understanding and offering that. And it's really kind of fun because the entire school is, parents are going through that. So there's like a book club that's going on, and we're sharing our things. And it's almost turning into a therapy session. We're like, oh, yeah, I did that too. And how bad did you mess up your kid? Okay, good, 9/11. So it's been really wonderful about that. And very eye-opening. There's a lot of different ways to get to places, and I think that's really important when we look at like who's in city council, like who's on our commissions or who do we hire and all those things. It's not just about all those achievements and you've checked those boxes to get there. Sometimes there's non-traditional paths to make it happen, but I've really enjoyed that, reading that and having that different perspective.
Thank you. Josh, what are you reading these days?
Well, I'm sure Matt would agree. We are both reading a lot about policy to prepare for tonight. But other than that, the book on my table next to my bed is called You Never Forget Your First. It's a biography about George Washington. So I'm reading that. And then I am not super good at chess, but I am reading a chess puzzle book right now. Just something I'm interested in currently. But again, I'm not good at it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes our question and answer portion of the forum. And these guys have really had to work hard tonight because usually there are more people up here to split the time among. So they've earned their dessert tonight when they go home. Okay. We've tried to include a lot of topics, and I've gone through all the questions, but if you have something, if something just pops into your mind, make sure you check out websites or reach out to the candidates or possibly the candidates who aren't here about something we did talk about. And we'll now go to closing statements. We'll do them in reverse order, which means I will start out by reading Julie Strahan's to do them in reverse order. So this is the closing statement submitted by Julie Strahan being read by the moderator. When I can get my oil changed by a station that provides community events, when I get my travel accessories from a 40-year Roseville business, when I get my bike serviced at a local shop, when I stop in the local store to trade in my building toys for something new, when I purchase my electric snowblower from a local hardware store, when I get my kitchen remodeled by a Roseville contractor, when I get my hair cut in the community, I am doing more than keeping my money in the neighborhood. I'm getting to know these business owners and helping to connect them to services and programs that the Council and the Economic Development Authority have established. I'm telling others about my positive experiences, and the small business is reinvesting in our hometown. I hope you'll keep the local shops in mind when making your purchases. There's great value in the relationships and connections they provide to us as Roseville residents. I thank you for considering electing me to a second term. I encourage you to follow me on Facebook at Julie Strahan, Roseville City Council member, or visit my website at Strahan, that's STRAHAN, for the digit, Roseville.com. Be sure to exercise your right to vote no later than November 5th. Thank you. I do not have a statement from Kevin Nicholson, so now we get to Josh Kiley.
Well, thank you. First, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this event. This is truly a one-of-a-kind event and gives us as candidates the opportunity to speak directly to voters and provides that critical one-to-one, in this case, comparison between candidates. And somebody who values local government, I really appreciate that you organized this, so thank you. I also want to thank those that watched this event here at the council chambers or online. If you have made it to the end of this forum, you are either my mom or you really care about local politics. And you are exactly the type of neighbor that I want to live next to. So thank you for engaging with us. Roseville has a really bright future, and I am so eager to be a part of it. As a city council member, I promise to prioritize community engagement, embrace a listen first, speak second approach to issues, and I promise to remain curious and earnest, even in disagreement. Together with the residents I've spoken with, we share a vision to strategically invest in the services that we depend on every day. Our parks, our roads, our water and sewer infrastructure, and our public safety. We must make sure our community is resilient to a changing climate, welcoming to everyone, and attractive and affordable so that new folks choose Roseville just like my wife and I did. As a candidate for City Council, I am so excited to get to work and translate your ideas and concerns into action. I'd love to earn your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last closing statement from Matt Bauer.
I would like to thank everyone who's been part of this to make this candidate forum, including the audience here and those watching online. It's been wonderful. I'd like to thank my fellow candidate for participating. I would also like to thank all the residents who took time to share their thoughts while I'm door knocking. I really appreciate you taking those moments to tell me and to share your thoughts. From that time, it's clear that we share the same priorities of public safety, parks, strong neighborhoods, and responsible finances. I will leverage my experience to focus on the challenges and opportunities we have here in Roseville. And I will do that using a pragmatic approach. I will use research and data-driven, and most of all, the input from residents, because community engagement is really what makes, I think, Roseville succeed. It's been wonderful talking to all the residents, and every door that I knock on is just so uplifting to see how passionate and how committed they are to make this such a great city, and the great city that it is. Roseville's future truly is bright. And if you share my view of preserving what we love about Roseville and making sure that continues into the future, I will ask you for your vote either early or on November 5th. You may learn more about me and my campaign at my website, mattbauer.vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. That wraps up our forum, though I'm not done talking. What an interesting evening it's been, and I would like to remind the audience that all opinions expressed tonight are those of the candidates, and the League of Women Voters does not endorse any candidate. I want to thank all of the candidates for stepping up to run for office. It's not easy, and it's a great responsibility. We need participation in all aspects of democracy for it to work, from informed voter to elected official. A special thanks to the candidates with us tonight for sharing their time, knowledge, and positions with us. Thanks to the audience here behind me for their attention and good questions. Thanks to the camera crew from 9 North and to my league colleagues for making this all come together. Check out the 9 North website for the rebroadcast schedule and encourage others to listen. A link will also be available on the League of Women Voters Roseville area website soon. You can also find links there to recordings of other forums for other offices for the county and state. There was one for the county commissioner recently for District 7, I guess, not for the one that Roseville's in, for District 7. And we do them also for the State House and Senate well, there's no Senate, State House.
40 House.
So you can find links there for those. The League researches issues important to our members and to the health of our communities. If you are interested in finding out more about what we do and how you can also make a difference, please pick up a membership brochure at the registration table or visit us at lwvmn.org. Membership is open to anyone age 16 and older. And to all listening, now that you have information, ponder your options seriously, and then please vote on or before Tuesday, November 5th. Early voting is open, and encourage your family, friends, and neighbors to vote thoughtfully. If anyone needs to update their registration because they've moved, request an absentee ballot, locate an in-person polling place, or track a ballot once it's mailed, go to mnvotes.gov. That's easy to remember, and it takes you to election information on the website for the Secretary of State's office. It has all the answers in about 10 languages. For a voter guide with statements from candidates, not just for City Council, try vote411.org. Thank you for listening. Good night and good luck.